Welcome to the Business Mechanics Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results Driven Leadership, where we fix your people problems. Today's show, really excited about this. I really dug into this. I had a fun time putting the research into this and getting it together for you. It's on a topic I think you will enjoy around implied expectations in leadership. Or think about it like this, a company culture, which is, don't make me think about it. It's just how we do things around here. What does all this mean? Let me get into it. Let me get it straight with you. When I say implied expectations, I'm not trying to make you envision a mystical corporate aura that you need some special goggles to see. No, it's more like, hey, this is how we roll around here. It's the stuff that everyone just knows, like how you know not to microwave fish in the office kitchen. It's the silent but oh so loud way of saying, this is us, welcome aboard. Now, aligning culture with this unspoken set of rules is like trying to tell someone how to ride a bike with text. Sounds nuts, right? But when it clicks, it's magical. And I've worked in organizations that had this pretty dialed in. So I'm coming from a place of experience, not theory. Always what I've experienced is what I bring to you. If I didn't know it worked, I wouldn't be talking about it. And essentially it means everyone's paddling in the same direction without someone yelling, oh, darn it, oh, every 5 seconds. And there's not somebody in the back of the boat trying to poke a hole with the oar into the bottom of the boat. It's about making the workplace feel less like a maze of cubicles and more like a well-oiled machine where every cog knows its job and we're all moving in the same direction. We know what that direction is. We're going to put the work into getting us there. One of the companies I worked for that had a great culture around this that I thought was brilliant. I continue to respect it. I don't know whether they still have it or not. It's been a couple decades now since I've worked there. But Kohl's department store, the largest chain of department stores in America, didn't get there by mistake. A lot of value, a lot of hard work, a lot of great pricing. They knew how to market better than just about anybody in the business. But one of the things they marketed was a customer experience. They knew that their best marketing was the last happy customer that left that store, who would then in turn tell somebody else how happy they are at shopping at Kohl's. And one of the things they did to enforce that customer satisfaction is a policy that was called, yes, we can. It wasn't just a snappy catchphrase. It was their way of saying, we trust you, dear employee, not to turn a simple price check into World War III. So let me explain that to you. Instead of having to summon a manager over, slowing down the checkout line, creating that awkward wait for the all-powerful manager to come over and override or approve some decision, employees can just fix the issue. So if the cashier is ringing something up, comes up a different price than what the customer thought it was, oh, that's supposed to be $29.99, it came up $39.99, that cashier is empowered to say, okay, it's $29.99, move on. The manager doesn't get interrupted. That awkward wait doesn't happen. We don't show mistrust for the employee. We don't show mistrust with the customer. It just works. And the customer zooms through the checkout. That's what they want to do. They want to get back to work or they want to get to their bunko game. Sure, there's a chance to someone trying to take advantage of it, game that kind of system. But hey, Kohl's was cool with that. They know that these good vibes between the employees and the customers, that we don't have to get into arguments with each other. It creates a atmosphere that far outweighs the occasional shenanigans. Yes, people took advantage of it. Percentage of customers that took advantage of that was so minuscule. So many managers, so many companies get caught up in the one-offs or the exceptions and create rules and policies around that. No, Kohl's was too smart. That's why they were the biggest, still are the biggest. And they take care of the customer. Let's not put anybody through this. Yes, there's going to be some one-offs, but we're not going to manage to exceptions. We're going to manage to the base. We're going to eliminate hassles. The customer just wanted to pay for their socks and get out of there. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. If you as a manager are drowning in a sea of questions, permission slips, it's a big flashing neon sign that the company's vibe is more confusing than a do-it-yourself IKEA manual. It's, hello, we've got a problem here. This is when it's time to step back and spell out the "this is how we do things" statement in big, bold letters. This whole implied expectation jazz that I'm talking about today isn't just for retail heroes, believe me. It works everywhere. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. Picture a manufacturing plant where quality isn't just a chapter in the training manual, but the gospel everyone preaches. Production understands it, shipping understands it, sales understands it, customer understands it, and quality control doesn't get caught in the middle like the evil villain that's slowing everybody down. No, it's how we do things. We're going to do it one time, and we're going to have our standards. We know what those standards are, and we're not going to shortcut those standards, because you know what happens when you shortcut? You're going to disappoint a customer. You're going to have to do it over again. It adds cost to the manufacturing, blah, 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 blah. I think you can figure that out. It's like having guardrails on a bowling lane. You're free to throw the ball however you like, as long as you don't end up tossing it in someone else's lane. Now, creating a culture of implied expectations isn't just a corporate strategy. It's a fundamental principle of leadership that transcends industries. It transcends managers in all kinds of settings, including some of the high stakes environments, the most high stakes environments on the planet. Let's talk about this one. Let's dive into how different organizations like, say, the Navy SEALs, they have a very deep culture of implied expectations. We'll talk about some corporate giants too, like Marriott, Amazon, maybe even Toyota, one of my favorites. Let me just go briefly into the Navy SEALs. When it comes to the Navy SEALs, the bar isn't just set high, it's in a whole other stratosphere. Lives are at stake. Hostages are at stake. The country's safety is at stake. Here, implied expectations are about trust with each other, reliability, and the unwavering belief that every team member has your back. It's about knowing that every SEAL has gone through the same grueling training and shares a commitment to excellence that doesn't need to be spelled out. There's not once during a raid or a mission that a SEAL has to stop and say, is it going to be okay for me to do this? Hey, Sarge, am I making a mistake here? No, they just know what to do. The expectation of putting the mission and the team above oneself is so ingrained that it becomes second nature. They don't have to think about what they have to do. They just do it. And that guides a decision-making in the heat of the moment under high levels of stress without even a second thought. That's an extreme example. Let's talk about maybe a more common example that you can relate to personally. Marriott's culture is built on the idea that taking care of employees means that they'll take care of the guest. And this philosophy trickles down into every interaction. Marriott, by the way, has been a Fortune 100 best places to work for decades. They've got a great cultures that employees love and they stay around. Now, the implied expectation around their guest services, taking care of their guest, that expectation is here so that every employee, regardless of their role, is part of creating a welcoming and caring environment for guests. The ethos is so embedded in Marriott's culture that employees go above and beyond without being asked. They anticipate guest needs. When a guest needs something, they take care of it. They're proactive about knowing what the guests need. They make every guest feel valued and taken care of. And I know this personally. I'm a lifetime titanium member of Marriott's awards program. And I've spent over 2,000 nights. I know you can feel sorry for me. 2,000 nights in Marriott hotels. Why? Because I knew exactly what I was going to get, no matter whether I was in Tampa, Topeka, or Timbuktu. And I was willing to pay more for that. And I was willing to stay loyal to that because I think one time in 40 years, did I have a bad experience in a Marriott. They always took care of me. How do they do that in thousands of locations? Implied expectations. They just know that we're going to take care of the guests. That's how they're trained. That's how they're onboarded. That's how they're supported. And never once at Kohl's, never once at Marriott did anybody ever get in trouble for taking care of a guest. Even if they stepped over the line a little bit, they took care of the guest. Geico. You ever done business with them? The gecko's promise. At Geico, that friendly gecko isn't just a mascot. It's a symbol of the company's commitment to service and efficiency. The implied expectation among the employees there is to make insurance as straightforward and accessible as possible. And this means cutting through the jargon, simplifying processes, and ensuring that getting help feels as easy as asking a friend for advice. Every employee is empowered to take initiative, solve problems, be creative, and ensure customer satisfaction, all in the spirit of the gecko's promise of simplicity and friendliness. Amazon. You're probably doing business with Amazon. I do a lot of business with Amazon. Their leadership principle of customer obsession speaks volumes about its implied expectations. Employees are expected to start with the customer and work backwards, ensuring that every decision, every product, every innovation enhances that customer's experience. They have a relentless focus on the customer, and it's so ingrained in Amazon's ethos that it influences everything from product development to delivery logistics, ensuring that meeting and exceeding customer expectations is always the priority. Why are they one of the biggest businesses on the planet? They own their customers because of this implied expectation. I never have to worry about whether that box is going to show up at my door. If it's not something I want, it's very simple to send it back. They make it as easy as falling off a log. Now, my favorite, I think, is the paramount of implied expectations is this little company called Toyota. And theirs is the continuous improvement drive. So let's talk about them for a sec. And no, it's not just about their cars. They make great cars. They year after year for as long as I can remember, at the top of the quality list in the eyes of the customer. Let's dive into their playbook, and you'll find out it's less about nuts and bolts and more about a mindset that's revolutionary. And it's amazing it doesn't get copied more often. Just amazing that their competition has never been able to pull this off. See, they've got this thing that's called the Toyota Production System, TPS. Yeah, that sounds really official, but at its heart, it's all about keeping things simple with a big dash of common sense. They live by Kaizen. I've always said Kaizen. Maybe I'm wrong. For 20 plus years, I've said it, which is a fancy way of saying make things better bit by bit, continuous improvement. Or and Genshi Genbutsu, which is essentially go check it out yourself, go and see. Manage by walking around. If there's a problem, go look at it. You can't manage from a desk. Now, here's the cool part. At Toyota, it doesn't matter if you're the one holding the wrench or the one in the big office. Everyone's expected to roll up their sleeves and dive into the nitty-gritty of problem solving. It's like they're all part of this big brainy club where the mission is to make everything smoother, smarter, far less wasteful. See, when companies start talking about cutting cost, that's a problem. See, at Toyota, it's about cutting waste. They find where they're wasting time, wasting material, having redos. You can't create a problem. You can't pass a problem. You can't ship a problem. That's how you get in trouble there. It's not some earth-shattering revolution. It's just about those tiny tweaks and tunes that up to a big win over time. Toyota meets with their production teams every single day to debrief on how the day went. What can we do better? And get this, anytime during any course of the day in any Toyota facility, if someone spots a hiccup on the line, they don't just whistle past it because they can't pass. They can't create a problem, a defect. They can't pass a defect. They can't just whistle past it. They slam the big red button and say, hold up. They can shut down the whole production line because we have to sort this out before we create any more problems. We create it as soon as we stop it, as soon as we see it. It's their way of saying everyone's got a stake in this and keeping things top notch. The top of every ranking scales level of quality. That's everyone's business. Everyone's responsible for it. And not only are you responsible for it, you have something you can do about it. And then there's this whole Genshi Gebutsu vibe, or let's go take a look. It's like their mantra for keeping it real. Got a problem? Don't just sit there flipping through reports. Lace them up, hit the floor, and see what's up with your own eyes. It's about getting your hands dirty and feeling the pulse of the place, which, let me tell you, changes the game when it comes to making things better. I'll say it again. I'm like a broken record. You cannot manage from your desk. Go and see. Manage by walking around. So what's the big deal with all of this, you ask? It's turned Toyota into more than just a car maker. They're like the cool kids. They're the cool kids at getting stuff done right. They set the pace for how to keep the gears turning smoothly in a crazy competitive industry like no other. It's not just about cars. It's about crafting a culture where everyone's jazzed up about chipping in to lift the game. And that, my friends, is how you drive, pun intended, towards being a legend in the biz. And here's a little nugget that might raise some eyebrows. The most American-made cars in America were Toyotas. Let that sink in for a minute. Here's something else that may raise your eyebrows. Toyota's got a bunch of plants scattered all across the U.S., turning out parts and whole vehicles. Now, hold on to your hats, because none of these places are waving the union flag. They've never been unionized in a single Toyota exclusive facility. They had a co-facility once in California that they were co-building cars with GM, General Motors. That plant got unionized. They since exited it. But anyway, today, 20 plus years later, Toyota has 0 unionized plant, despite the fact that the UAW, United Auto Workers, throwing everything but the kitchen sink at them, trying to get a foothold, especially in spots like Toyota Motor Manufacturing Plant in Kentucky, which is their behemoth, where I trained the Toyota way. They don't need it. That's where they flip the script on the typical American auto factory scene. They've brewed their own special sauce with this Toyota way, and it's got a flavor all its own, because it's not about this us versus them or workers against the bigwigs. It's more like a big family dinner where everyone's got to see the table, everyone's voice matters, and Toyota's team doesn't just clock in and out. Excuse me, they're part of the conversation. From the folks on the assembly line to the folks in those shiny offices, the sense of being in it together, of having a say and making a real difference creates a vibe where the thought of needing a union to step in feels out of place. It's not that Toyota's workers are anti-union. No. It's more like they're living in an environment where they already feel heard. They already feel valued and empowered to make things better every day. Unions certainly have their place and play a crucial role in many industries. I'm not dismissing unions, but it adds a huge cost and complexity to run in a facility that Toyota's never needed. Their employees have never needed representation. They've managed to carve out this culture where the team feels like they're already getting a fair shake, a real voice, and a chance to be part of the car making magic that is Toyota. And that, folks, is how Toyota is cruising down a different road when it comes to the whole union gig in the auto world. Now, those are examples. I've talked about the whole concept around implied expectations. But the hard stuff is creating it. If you don't have it and you want to create it, it ain't easy. Creating and following a culture and mission like Toyota is no cakewalk, my friends. Not at the start. It's not going to be easy. It's like deciding to finally clean that scary closet. The one. But here's the thing. Once you get past the initial, why did I even start this? It's all downhill from there. There's less mess, fewer whoopsie daisies, a whole lot more, hey, look at us being all efficient and mistake free and having a good time. Trust me, a little sweat equity up front pays off big time down the road. It makes your life so much easier. And let's dive in a little deeper into this rabbit hole of implied expectations, because let's face it, we've only scratched the surface and I only have so many minutes to do. this podcast. There's a lot. This is a very deep topic, and I'm only hitting the surface of it. And think of this as the sequel nobody asked for, but everyone secretly wanted. Imagine stepping into a workplace where the vibe is so clear. It's like walking into a room where your favorite song is playing. You just get it. That's the power of culture where actions speak louder than the employee handbook. It's not about plastering motivational quotes on the walls. It's about living those words so loudly that even the office plants, even the greenery out in the lobby get the message. Now let's talk about those poor souls in management. Maybe that's you, who are constantly bombarded with questions. Picture a manager, coffee in hand, besieged by a never-ending line of employees asking, can I do this? Should I do that? What do I do with this? It's like being the only person at a party who knows where the cups are. It's exhausting. It's frustrating. You can't get anything done because all the screw-ups, the problems that are being dumped in your lap, no solutions, just problems you got to solve. And believe me, that line of people asking you questions, it's not just a sign of curious minds. It's about them wanting to do it right. But you haven't empowered them with the implied expectations of what right is. You haven't created the buckets of expectations that they don't even have to think about it. I know what the answer is. And if Toyota can do it building a piece of machinery with thousands of pieces attached to it, you can do it at your facility too. You can do it whether you're insurance, accounting, marketing, manufacturing, sales. I don't care what you're doing. You can do the same thing. It's just a mindset. It's when you're having these problems of constant questions, mistakes, screw ups, it's a glaring beacon that the company's cultural GPS needs recalibrating. But fear not, there's a fix. And it's really simpler than you think. It's simple in concept. It's simple once you get it in place. And trust me, I've worked in a place where it was like this. I led a team of 3,000 people that was like this, but I was a part of a bigger team of 20 plus thousand people that it was like this. It's about turning those implied expectations into the company's heartbeat. It's ensuring that every decision from the C-suite to the intern pulses with the rhythm of this is how we do it. It's about making the unsaid said. Not in a memo. You can't legislate this. So you don't just send out a memo and say, starting as of. Nobody reads those memos anyway. You do it through actions, and actions that everyone notices. Circle back to Kohl's for a second. Their yes, we can attitude isn't just about making customers happy. It's a masterclass in empowering employees. It's telling them, we trust your judgment. And yes, there may be a few who take advantage of this, but that's a small price to pay for the mountain of goodwill it builds. It's like giving someone a key to your house. You're saying, I trust you to not throw a party. And granting that trust breeds a culture where employees aren't just cogs in a machine, they're co-pilots. In order to gain trust, you have to grant trust. In order to gain respect, you have to give respect. And when you got a plane full of co-pilots, flying becomes a whole lot smoother. Managers aren't bogged down with micromanaging because everyone knows the flight plan. There's less thinking. We just know what to do. It's about giving employees the map and saying, you know the destination. I trust you'll get there. And here's where the magic happens. When employees, your employees, feel empowered, engagement skyrockets. Workplace happiness skyrockets. It's like giving them a cheat code to job satisfaction. Suddenly, the workplace becomes a place of possibility, innovation, and dare I say, joy. It's the difference between dragging yourself to work and sprinting to the office because you can't wait to see what the day holds. Let's not get too story-eyed here. This isn't a fairy tale. It's real life. It requires work and planning and meetings and buy-in, collaboration. It means leaders need to lead by example, walk the talk so loudly that it drowns out any doubts. It's about clarity, consistency, and back to what I said previously, a whole lot of trust. So if you find yourself in a leadership position, now I'm the boss, I've been put into this management role, ask yourself, is my team clear on how we do things around here? Are they clear on that part? Is my involvement in their day-to-day dispensable? Do they really need me? Are they able to operate without me around? Do they do the right thing even when I'm not watching? And if the answer to anything, if you can answer to any of those with anything but a resounding yes, it's time for some introspection and action. You got to remember, a workplace where everyone's in sync, it's not just a pipe dream. I'm telling you, I've lived it. It's a goal worth striving for. It makes life amazing. And here's the best part. When you get this right, managing becomes less about herding cats. I know you said it, or running an adult daycare center. Some of you said that. It's more about leading a parade. It's empowering, freeing, and dare I say, a little bit of fun. Employees feel like they got the reins, and managers aren't stuck playing the role of the bad guy who always has to say no or have to give permission on things. But, and this is a big but, if the ship starts to feel like it's steering itself into stormy waters, with employees constantly look around like lost tourists, it's time for a little powwow. Continuous improvement. Get it before it gets off the rails. It's about reinforcing those invisible lines that say, here is how we nail it every time. Make sure everybody's got that memo. So in a nutshell, implied expectations are the secret sauce to a workplace that's less, what the heck am I supposed to do? And more, got it, boss. It's about creating a vibe where everyone's in sync. The air is filled with high fives. And the biggest worry is whether there's enough coffee for a second cup. And who wouldn't want a place like that?